So our opinion is that there's many ways to do improv. The way that we choose to do improv is the way that most appeals to us that day.
Yeah, and we've actually taken that idea to some extremes where improv troupes at large, there are certain things that they consider just wildly wrong, and that, to the point where if you do that in a scene on stage, the scene comes to a screeching halt, and it requires someone of massive skill to recover.
Like what?
Uh, Blocking is a good one, where if you say no to another performer in some way, like the epitome of blocking is breaking reality. In the middle of the scene, if you broke character and demonstrated that you were a performer. We don't think that that's a problem at all.
We actually do that quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's merely a technique, and if you understand it as an option, one of the colors on your palette, then it doesn't come as a surprise. It comes as just, oh, I recognize what that person's doing. Let's enjoy the play from there. Another thing's like a term called pimping, which is where you force another performer to do something that they weren't prepared to do. Here, read this. Oh my God!
Oh.
How can he possibly recover
How can I think of something off the top of my head?
as
Wait.
an improviser? And that's seen as pimping is terrible. But once again, if I'm good enough to be on stage and he's good enough to be on stage, then we can trust each other to cover any places where we drop the ball. And furthermore, we can drop bombs on one
Yeah.
another and expect
So we
there to
can-
be no problem.
Yeah.
That's another, that pretty much brings up another answer to your question. What separates us from some of the other troops out there is that we're not a competitive-based troupe. And that's what gives us the leniency and comfort to be able to do whatever we want on stage. Whether it's planned or not, whether it's expected or not, is that we all trust each other. And we're all, the only thing we're competing against is how good the show can be and how much fun we can have on stage. So if we're doing a scene and it should very obviously go a certain direction and Joff decides, no, I'm not going to take it in that direction, and the only reason I'm not going to take it in that direction is to be stubborn, and the reason why I want to be stubborn is it will be so funny to be that stubborn and defy what you obviously want me to do. In a competitive troupe, that would be seen as competition. I don't want your idea, I want to compete to get my idea done. In our troupe, it's just a choice. And as long as we don't honestly start competing with one another, then everything works out great.
And so much of regular improv is based on the lack of trust. Almost all improv rules are based on not being able to trust who you're on stage with. So being in a troupe that trusts every other member of the troupe to be on stage with them, you don't need a lot of those rules.